This is the Craig Charles Show, BBC Radio 6 Music. Homer calls, I can't speak to everyone. I'm joined by John Flansburg, one half of They Might Be Giants. John, are you there?
The lower half.
The lower half.
The lower half, sir.
Yeah. Listen, you're on a near sold-out tour throughout November, playing songs from your 1990 album, Flood. How does it feel for you to have an album that's still loved by audiences 30 years on?
Oh, it feels great. You know, it's kind of, for a long time, it really felt like our calling card. It was just the album that people always kind of come through to hear anything more from us. And, right before lockdown, we started doing these shows where we would actually just play the whole album. We do an evening with show, so there's no opener, like we're opening for ourselves essentially. So it's like it's a big program. So we can get in a lot of other material as well as spotlight an album. So we just perform the Flood album like interspersed in the rest of the show, and we can play a lot of people's favorite songs. I mean, to be perfectly honest, playing songs from the side 2 of Flood feels a little cork sniffy to me. It actually, I mean, it's not all bangers, So we're definitely getting into some other territories.
Does it feel different playing it now, 30 years later? Has the perspective shifted, if you know what I mean?
I mean, to me personally, when we're performing the songs, it's a little bit like climbing into a time machine. I mean, if it wasn't for mirrors, I think I would feel exactly the same. It's very exciting to play these songs for me, and the response it gets from the crowd is kind of amazing. But when I listen to the recordings, I think a lot about like how much the technology has changed. I'm grateful that we didn't put too much gated reverb and gated snare drum sounds on our albums.
Mm-hmm. You and your bandmate, the other John, you met as teenagers, is that right, in Lincoln, Massachusetts?
We actually met as children. John's a year older than me, but we became friends as teenagers because then we were in a school where we would actually cross paths more. But yeah, we grew up in the same place.
And then you kind of moved to Brooklyn in 1982. I mean, and you were vital in creating that growing DIY music scene in Brooklyn in the 80s. I was wondering what you remembered about that time and how do you think the scene's changed since then?
It wasn't an audition for anything. I think that's like sort of the framing device that's important to keep in mind. Like we weren't thinking, oh, this will be, doing it this way is going to get us somewhere. I think we were pretty confident that we were going nowhere, actually. It was really fun. New York City as a place was so strange. It was, very, very down period for the city. Like things were really run down, and it felt like somebody's idea of Berlin might feel between the in Cabaret or something. It was like a very much a demi-monde kind of scene. Mm-hmm. But it was tremendous fun. It was its own culture and microclimate and a lot of weirdos and a lot of good times.
I don't mean to be crass here, but you won a Grammy for writing the theme tune to Malcolm in the Middle. Was that a real ka-ching moment for you guys?
Where it helps, believe it or not, is when you're trying to get shows at places that have grants and stuff, like performing arts centers and things like that. When you're trying to do legitimate stuff. Yeah. It's a great legitimizer. I mean, when you go to the Grammy dinner the night before, which is like the nominees dinner, the head of NARAS, which is like the Grammy people, make a big point of saying you have to know that this is going to be the first line of your obituary, and you're thinking, well, I don't want to think too much about my obituary right now. Thank you very much. But it's kind of true. It changed things. I think it helped us a lot in sort of, the second stage of our 14-stage career.
How did it come about?
It was very odd. The creator of the show is a fellow named Linwood Boomer, and we got a cold call to the office, and they left a message with my wife asking, saying there's this guy who has a pilot of a TV show. They didn't have a budget, they didn't have anything, but they wanted to have an original theme attached to the pitch. Mm-hmm. And would you put something together? And it was one of those things where it was like, it seemed very easy to say no to. It's like, you've got no money and you want us to do a lot of work for free? No, we don't want to do that. But then actually my wife recognized his name because he was a kid actor in Little House on the Prairie. He played like the very hunky blind boyfriend in Little House on the Prairie. And then of course, with the miracle of, Google searches at the time, I was able to figure out that he, had a kind of a very legit career in TV and was not just, some dreamer somewhere. And he was a very ambitious dude, and he started the show kind of his own way, and it became a huge hit show.
It was. Now listen, lots of people will be listening to this whilst at work, and possibly resenting their bosses. So would you do me the honour of introducing the track? I think you know the track I'm talking about, but I want you, John, to introduce that track.
Good morning, Mum. It's John on Radio 6. Here it is, Boss of Me by They Might Be Giants.
Yes, no, maybe. I don't know. Can you repeat the question? You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. Life is unfair, so I just stare at the stain on the wall where the TV been. But ever since we've moved in, it's been empty. Why I'm in this room, there is no point explaining. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. Life is a test, but I confess I like this mess I've made so far. Great on a curve, and you'll observe I'm right below the horizon. Yes, no, maybe I don't know. Can you repeat the question? You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. Life is unfair.
That was Boss of Me by They Might Be Giants, introduced. Am I pronouncing your surname right? How do you pronounce your surname?
I find Flansburgh to be absolutely charming. It sounds so poncy. I want to celebrate. I want to change my name to Flansburgh so I can get more respect within my peer group. It's Flansburg, but Flansburg sort of sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like the guy you went to summer camp with,
Listen, your new album, Horn of Beasts, came out 10th of October. It's a live album, performing different arrangements of your songs with your new 3-piece horn section.
Yeah.
What have you discovered about the songs since adding the horn section? And is it much more difficult to tour now?
Well, I can tell you what we've really experienced with the horns is that it's kind of increased the musicality in every direction. Like, there's all these things you can do with horns that are quite distinct. Like, we have all these interesting improvisational moments in the show now that are really left field moments. But then we also have like these very beautiful horn things, some things that are almost pastoral. It's just it's sort of like just a booster rocket on the musicality of what we're doing. I wouldn't say it really does one thing. It actually does a lot of different things, and we try to take advantage of all the things we can do with the horns.
I mean, the album isn't released on streaming services, but it's available to buy on vinyl, download, and CD. Was that a conscious decision from you guys, and why is that so important to you?
Well, Spotify came at us with this very, very incredible deal, and it was very easy to pass up on. No, I mean, streaming is a very strange business. It's so marginal. I think we're just trying to find a way to get through this world and do projects that work for us and work for our audience. So it sounds very calculated, but I mean the truth is, we have a lot of music on streaming and we have no aversion to giving away music for free. But Spotify is a little too close to giving away music for free.
That sounds like a very clever way of saying I want to get paid.
The truth is, like, doing projects like this actually, in a way, sort of fund the other more public stuff that we do that still costs money to make, but don't necessarily generate the kind of dough that we used to generate when the record industry was solvent.
Listen, 23 studio albums, 11 live albums. What's your secret?
Too many albums.
Not too many albums. Just
too
enough.
many albums.
I
think they should be withdrawn. I have a friend who vehemently believes that bands should all stop after 3 albums, and sometimes I can't argue with them. A lot of times people's first album is the thing. And in some ways, I feel like we're always trying to get back to like the magic of our first album. You must have interviewed a lot of people that have made a bazillion albums. I mean,
yeah,
it's in a way, it's the vehicle, but I mean, it's important to keep it urgent. I mean, we spent a lot of time putting our albums together. We believe in the album as a concept, but sometimes, I mean, listen, I've been in a band for 40 years. That's insane.
Do you still like each other?
Why? I love John, and I think he tolerates me.
Well, he's the older one, isn't he? So is he slightly more grumpy?
No, he's not grumpy. He's more mature. John is like a very funny, beautiful, thoughtful person, and he's like he's so good at everything. He's a great musician. And he's really diplomatic, and he's got a wicked sense of humor. He's kind of, I'm jealous of him.
It's not what you said about you.
That's what I'm saying.
What is the secret, though, of being in a partnership for that length of time?
I don't know if I know the secret. I think we were lucky that we spent so much time together seeing formative things. Like I saw a Frank Zappa concert with John Linnell. I saw Elvis Costello with John Linnell. I saw Taxi Driver with John Linnell. I mean, we kind of grew up together, and we're not brothers. We're not tied together. Like we don't have to be with each other if we don't want to be. So it's a nice combination of having a real kinship and a real affiliation, and then on top of it, we're free.
Thanks for talking to us.
Oh, hey, thank you so much, Craig. This was not nearly as dangerous as everybody said it was going to be.
My reputation is it's uncalled for. Good luck with the rest of the tour.
That. Thanks for playing us on the radio.
It's a pleasure. Can I ask you one more question? Your favourite thing about touring in the UK?
I was just in Scotland, and I actually ate at a restaurant called The Buttery, which is the Two Fat Ladies restaurant.
Okay.
And it was just fantastic. You know, I had all this Scottish food that was absolutely heart-stopping. I think I'm going to have to double my statin intake, but it was devastatingly delicious.
John, thanks for talking to us. You have a great tour and have a great rest of the afternoon, all right?
Thanks again. Let's do this again sometime.